Story 1. I experienced racism for a long time because of my name. However, over time, I overcame it and embraced my name. My grandfather gave me that name. It was intended to be a puzzle. If my mother's name and my name were placed next to one another, it would reveal the birthplace of my grandmother. Story 2. Not really. Tell me how my Romani mother and Anglo-Hispanic father, who are both atheists, gave me a Jewish name. Story 3. No, it was just a feminine form of my older brother's name. It's too common, plus it's odd when we meet people together. Our last name is quite unique, and it was really frustrating when people confused me with him because we both go by our last name. They always end up referring to me as little last name. I was always in his shadow. On top of that, I am a literal physical female version of him. It's like they just copied and pasted me. I now go by the name my grandma gave me or the nickname I chose for myself. Story 4. I was named after a character from a television show, but my parents spelled it differently, and nobody ever pronounces it correctly. My name annoys me, but I'm too old or lazy to change it. Story 5. I was named after a saint. Over the years, this name has grown on me. My family never called me by my first name. We referred to each other by titles such as mother, father, brother, and dear sister. This is simply how things are done in our native language. The direct usage of my name in English is a reflection of my personal efforts in work and the relationships I have chosen. Carries mostly good memories and a positive history. Plus, the ladies love it. Story 6. I would have preferred something a bit less ordinary, like Rebecca, Ruth, or Rachel. On the list were Hannah and Margot. I would have made an excellent Margot. Story 7. Yes, because it is a unique name. It is not a variation of a popular name, and I would not have to worry about other people sharing my name. My name is also pronounced correctly. Story 8. It's okay. It's a pretty standard name. When they told me the other options they were considering, I am much happier with the name I have. Story 9. I was named after a professional wrestler, and I ended up loving wrestling. I hope to try it one day, but what is difficult is that I can't use my real name for obvious reasons, and I wouldn't know what to come up with for a new name. Story 10. My name means my heart, my soul, love, and the bringer of love. I find my name beautiful, and I believe it suits me as a person very well. Story 11. I have a new name now. It is a feminine combination of names that is quite pretty, but it didn't feel fitting for me. I began trying to change it and play with it in elementary school because it never felt like it represented who I was. The name I had was uncommon, so it wasn't like being named Brittany or Ashley, but it was still common enough to not be considered weird. It was truly a case of it's not you, it's me with my birth name. Story 12. My name is my favorite thing about myself. I think it's beautiful and unique, but not over the top. Just unique enough that I don't know anyone else with it, aside from one celebrity. It fits me perfectly. They couldn't have given me a better name. Story 13. No, my dad heard it in a movie he watched the day I was born and can't even remember what it was. He also had to flip a coin for another name from a different movie to decide. Story 14. I dislike it. It feels too uncommon and sounds cheesy. While searching the internet, I found that I am the only person with my exact full name, and I dislike how easy it is to find information related to me. At least the spelling is accurate. Story 15. Yes and no. I love my name and how it sounds, but it has a unique spelling and is often mispronounced. No, it's not a trendy name. When my name is mispronounced, it turns into my grandmother's name. I don't correct people I won't see more than once anymore. Story 16. I don't mind the first and last name, but the middle name is problematic. I'm a junior and ended up with my father's middle name from the 1950s, which is now commonly seen as a feminine name and may have been viewed as feminine even 70 years ago. I have considered changing it. Story 17. I dislike it. There are many spellings and about 3 to 4 different variations of the same name, but none of us consider the other names as our own. It's similar to the names Kristen and Kirsten, or Carolyn and Caroline. It's quite frustrating. Story 18. I don't mind the name itself. I do not appreciate the fact that my father clearly expected me sharing his name would result in me turning out just like him. Story 19. No, because it is my mother's and aunt's names spelled incorrectly. I have had to correct people's spelling and pronunciation my whole life. I am also not fond of being called by my first and middle names all the time to distinguish me from my mother. Story 20. I was named after my father, who wasn't in my life. However, I am not even a junior. I was given my mother's last name because he left her. Story 21. I was named after my father, who was named after his Sicilian grandfather. I just got the Americanized version of their names. Story 22. I was named as a result of a competition within my dad's family. My dad and his brothers were constantly trying to outdo one another. My mom and my aunt were pregnant at the same time and had similar due dates. There was a name going around that both brothers really liked, and they decided whichever baby was born first would get the name. I was born on the 19th of June and my cousin on the 3rd of July, so I got the name. One thing that was never explained was where the idea for the name came from. No one else in my dad's or mom's family has the name. I'm not named after anyone from television, like my sister was, or anyone they admire, so that part's a mystery. I like my name as I'm used to it, but it's irritating that it came as a result of sibling rivalry. Story 23. My name is G. It is not a rare name in my home country, but it is not common either. When you see my name, you would not be able to guess where I am from. I used to wish I had a longer name that sounded fancy. I moved to Europe a few months ago, and here I learned that the letter J is not universally used in the same way as in English. In Slavic and Germanic languages, J is usually pronounced like the English Y. Whenever I meet locals or other citizens from the European Union, they often say they like my name or that it is beautiful or fascinating at the very least. This has made me think of my name in a different way, and I have grown to like it. Story 24. I actually dislike it. I changed it when I turned 18. I do not know why I dislike it so much. It might have something to do with childhood trauma. Story 25. I'm disgusted by my name. There's nothing wrong with it, and I don't hate the name. I just hate that it's mine. I hate hearing it, seeing it, or being called it. It makes me cringe and want to scream. It's nauseating to hear. It makes me so uncomfortable, and I wish I could change it. I mean, I can change it. I'm almost 25 years old. I can do what I want, but I just don't know what to change it to. I love the name Zelda, and I go by that on all my social media and in any video games that ask for a name, but I just can't see myself being called that in real life. Feels strange to change your name. It feels weird. Story 26. It took time to grow on me, but as I got older, I learned where they came from. My first name is the same as my great-uncle who died in World War II. He saved my grandfather while they were there. My middle name has been carried by a man in my family for as long as we have known English, about 4 generations or so. It is the closest thing we have had to an heirloom for a while since we were never wealthy. My last name is the one we were given when we assimilated. We are not officially part of the actual family it came from, but at this point, I think a case could be made if I ever took a trip to Ireland. Story 27. It's a mix. A celebrity shares my full name, so I can't be searched without specific information about me, but everyone compares me to her, which is annoying. Story 28. It has never really felt like the right name for me. In high school, a friend created a cool nickname for me. I prefer to be called that. Feels like me. Story 29. I neither dislike it nor love it. It is incredibly common for the time I was born, and there are many ways to spell it. I no longer correct the baristas because it seems pointless. Story 30. No, because I am transgender. Additionally, the name was a complete act of cultural appropriation. It was a Hindu name that I have never encountered in my country, and I have never met anyone with that name. For context, I am very white and not at all Middle Eastern in any part of my family lineage. Therefore, my parents naming me that was not only culturally insensitive but also led to years of bullying. Story 31. No, it is their fault. There are over 37 different variations of the name that are nicknames, most of which mean feces. If you think it is funny to play with your child's name and turn it into the word for feces, then do not be shocked if they do not like that name. Story 32. No, but then again, names are very fluid to me. People in my life know me by dozens of names, all of which I respond to. Whenever I meet someone new, I choose a random name to introduce myself. In fact, my birth name is the only one that I don't like using. Story 33. I like my name for its uniqueness, but I also dislike it for the same reason. I know no one else with my name, which I appreciate, but the constant mispronunciations and the question, "How do you spell that?" can be frustrating. I tell people multiple times, yet they still get it wrong, so they often give me a nickname and I have to accept that. While I wouldn't change my name, I wish it weren't so unique. Story 34. I like it a lot better than the alternatives my dad came up with. Sunshine over the meadow, rainbow by the brook, or my mother's first choice of bloated. Story 35. It's okay. One of these days, if I find the motivation and can afford it, I plan to change the legal spelling of my name to my preferred version, which is still a very normal way to spell my name, just prettier in my opinion. I got my name somewhat by accident. My mother, after giving birth and still under the influence of medication, chose the most unconventional name you can imagine. My father, distracted by a rerun of Star Trek, was not present to witness my mother naming me and only found out later when he saw it on the card attached to the bassinet I was in at the hospital nursery. My father was understandably upset with the charge nurse because that unfortunate name was not what he intended for me. My name was first name, middle name, period. Fortunately, by that point, my mother had eaten and returned to her usual self. She agreed that the name my father had chosen was much better than the one she initially gave me. She liked it so much that I have spent my entire life being called first name, middle name by everyone. My parents' friends, my mother's church family, my actual family, just about everybody. And I kind of hate it. Story 36. Yes, I do. My only regret is that I didn't ask them why they chose the name while they were still alive. Story 37. My brother, born in 1979, was named Darth. He disliked it so much that he changed it as soon as he was able to. Story 38. I'm unsure. I go by a shortened version of my name. I was named after a character played by Julia Roberts who dies due to health complications, and it feels like a curse. I have so many health issues that it feels like a prophecy some days. Still alive, though. Story 39. I was named after two characters from American soap operas from the 1980s. This definitely contrasts with my strong beliefs in African identity. Story 40. Yes, now. It was just unusual enough for Scotland in the 1980s for people to always comment when they first heard it. It has a song connection, so it got sung at me a lot too, which made me less fond of it when I was younger. But now, I really like that my name stands out a little from the crowd. It's kind of cool that when people I've known hear the name, they likely think of me, as I'm probably the only one they have met. Plus, I absolutely love the song and welcome people singing it to me anytime. Story 41. I actually do. It's cute and short, and I don't hear it often. Although I've always wanted to have a name that could be shortened to a nickname. Story 42. My initials spell out the word kids, which was a term used for testicles when I was growing up. I was often bullied because of it, and even today, people my age comment on it when they learn my middle name. Additionally, most of my extended family spells it incorrectly. Story 43. No, which is why I changed it. It was a very specific name that none of my international friends knew how to pronounce, and it didn't have an English equivalent as some names do. It was also very gendered, and I prefer to avoid that. My current name is still somewhat specific to my country in pronunciation, but now it has an English version, and generally, it feels more like me. Story 44. I like it because it is quite international. You cannot tell what country I am from based on my first name. Story 45. It's fine. I have a very common name for a white American male born in the 1970s. Half the guys my age that I've ever known share my name. The shorter version has some athletic connotations that I was never fond of when I was young, but overall I'm okay with my name. As a kid, I always wished it was Alex or Dennis. Story 46. Both my sister and I have unique names, which I believe is not helpful for developing a sense of place in the world while growing up. Ultimately, we're all busy trying to get through life as best we can, and having an unusual name doesn't make you more or less exceptional than anyone else. You know? I appreciate my mom and I'm grateful for my name, but I don't think it's necessarily healthy to give children very unusual names. Story 47. The good things. My real name, Trent, cannot be shortened or nicknamed and was so rare during my childhood that I never saw another person with that name until I was 13 years old. I never needed a surname, even in a school with 1,300 students. Bad things. It was impossible to buy items with my name on them, as you can often find displays with every name in alphabetical order. I rarely looked because mine was never included. Now, it is a much more common name and I hear it quite often. I joke that it's because all the women who met me when I was younger thought I was so wonderful that they later named their children after me. Story 48. No, I do not like it at all. I go by a slightly shortened form that I can deal with, but I have never liked it. I remember being a very young child, hearing my name and clearly thinking how much I disliked it even at 2 or 3 years of age. It doesn't suit me either. I have had some serious conversations about changing it, but all family and friends have their own opinions, don't they? My parents like my name. I think they would be upset if I changed it, but they know I really dislike it. Story 49. I like my name, but I don't like how people mispronounce it. So, I introduce myself using a different version of that name. The downside is that most people don't actually know my real name. Story 50. No, I hated it. My name was never spoken with love, only with spite. My mother told me she hated it, and it was chosen by my dad, who she also hated. I have changed it now. Story 51. I have a very uncommon name in my country. No one knows how to spell it without help, and nobody says it right the first time, if at all. When I got a job at a restaurant and introduced myself to our French chef, he doubled over laughing, saying I should never tell anyone in France my name. I don't think it's that bad. But he found it hilarious. It's my name. I don't hate it. It's just my name. I don't know anyone else with this name. Often people say, I don't feel like a insert name, but I don't have that feeling because I have no comparison. A bit of a funny side note. I discovered a few years ago that there is, or was, an adult film star who has my first name, or uses it anyway. I hope I'm not named for her. Story 52. Definitely, especially after learning about the other options they had for my name, with apologies to my late grandpa. Story 53. Having a great name leads to a better life. A difficult name can put you at a disadvantage in various aspects of life. There is bias from teachers, classmates, potential friends, and potential employers. Achieving success is more challenging with an undesirable name. This situation has also contributed to my depression. It took the unexpected death of a good friend to motivate me to start the process of a legal name change. I am changing my entire name, and saying better late than never is an understatement at my age. Story 54. No, both my first and middle names are too elaborate for my taste. I would have preferred something more classic like Catherine, Elizabeth, and Margot, or any number of mainstream names that are elegant and have better potential for nicknames. Well, it is what it is. Story 55. Absolutely not. There are around 700 different ways to spell Kieran, including Kieran, 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 and Kieran. Story 56. Hell no, I was saddled with 4 first names, with the last 2 being Sunflower Meadow. She was eccentric but very much loved. Now that she is gone, I find I can live with them. I really miss my mom. Story 57. Not really. I guess I am okay with my first name, even though I was named after a race car that my father worked on. But my middle name bothers me. My dad dated his now wife before my mom, and she has the same middle name as me, although spelled differently. Over the years, he has claimed that I was named after her, his old girlfriend, while he was still with my mom. Story 58. It is a simple and common biblical name, which may seem boring but is acceptable. However, my Latino in-laws struggle to pronounce it. Story 59. My real name is Robert, but I dislike it. That name holds no meaning for me. I prefer to be called Robbie, and that is all. Story 60. My name clearly identifies my age and highlights the socio-economic group I was born into. I wouldn't mind because both my grandparents had names I would have been perfectly happy with. Story 61. Yes, I have a pretty masculine name, which I adore as someone who isn't very feminine. However, I always get asked if my name came from Subnautica, keeping in mind that I was born long before the game was released. Story 62. Nope. But my name wasn't given by my parents. It was given by my grandma. I was their third child and they thought I was a boy. They didn't get this confirmed, but my mom had one of each and was sure I was a boy as she was carrying weight, like she did with my brother. Anyway, they settled on Jack as the name and then, surprise, I'm a girl. They had no girl names and didn't like Jackie, so I went unnamed until my grandparents came to meet me in the hospital. They asked my grandma, and she said Polly, and so they went with it. I'm 40 now, and only my grandma ever called me Polly, and everyone else called me Polly, and even my family doesn't do that. It's Pole. Literally, even birthday cards say Pole, not Polly. I think it's because it's a really girly name and I am not really girly at all. Story 63. I really do. Not many people have it. Even though it was given to me suddenly, I think it truly reflects my personality. I resonate with it a lot. Story 64. No, it feels too ancient and lengthy for me, and it sounds uninteresting. Unfortunately, I cannot specify what it is. Story 65. I used to feel embarrassed about my middle name, which is my grandfather's name. It's a very common name, but I felt bad because some classmates teased me when they found out. Story 66. I like my name. It is masculine, and there is no feminine version of it. It is not used as a name for inappropriate references. It's not a biblical name. Story 67. Not really, but it's been with me my whole life, and it's the only name I have. Most people here have two names, so I'll go with it. Story 68. No, I didn't. My siblings all had simpler names, while mine was hard to pronounce and difficult for anyone to remember. So, I changed it when I got adopted. Story 69. I have always disliked my name, Candy. I was often teased in school for having a name that resembled something associated with strippers. Additionally, many songs released around that time mentioned it, which made me dislike it even more. However, it is preferable to the alternative name, Tammy, that my mother originally wanted. I suppose my father convinced her to choose a name they both liked instead. Story 70. No. My mother had chosen a beautiful name to honor my great-grandmother. But during my baptism, my abusive father changed it to my name without telling my mother. She discovered it when the priest presented me, and she said, "Wait, who is that? It's a mistake." My father replied, "No, I told him that name. I like it better." That year, the name became trendy, and there were 5 of us with the same name in the same class at school. Story 71. They gave me a name that is typically a last name or the name of a middle-aged white man. I am Latina. Growing up and having people question my name every time I introduced myself was challenging. Story 72. I am mostly okay with it, but my middle name rhymes with my last name. Unless absolutely required, I never give my middle name and just use the initial. Story 73. I hate it. I always have. It's incredibly common. At one point in school, I was one of 4 with that name, and there were 3 others with very similar names. Our poor teacher had 7 kids with almost the same name. It's not even a good reason. It was a backup name because a friend stole my original name a few weeks before I was born. I want to change it, but I have yet to find one I like. Story 74. I don't like anything about myself. This is why I don't like the thought of dating or applying for a new job. You are essentially trying to sell the idea of yourself to someone. Story 75. Yes, I really like my name. However, I do not appreciate when people pronounce it incorrectly. I believe that is probably how everyone feels. Story 76. I love the name I was given, but not the abusive person who gave it to me. So, I go by a different name that I chose for myself. Story 77. Oddly enough, both my father's parents had the same name. I take great pride in being named after them. Story 78. I do like it. Many people my age call my name old school. The name itself isn't anything special, but there's something about being literally the only one in the country under 60 years old with the same name that I find kind of cool. I didn't realize it said, if not, then why? Story 79. No, it is just too common. Honestly, I would rather be Emily, Andrea, or Melissa or something like that. Story 80. My name is essentially a nickname because my parents knew that if they gave me my full name, everyone would just call me by the nickname. Almost every time I have introduced myself for 22 years, I have been asked what my full name is. I would like to change it one day. Story 81. I haven't thought about this question. I consider myself agnostic, and I believe I have one of the best names as God's son. Story 82. I absolutely loathe Shania Twain. If you listen to her lyrics, she's toxic. She gives women the absolute worst advice and promotes harmful beliefs. The double standards are infuriating. I hate her. Her real name isn't even Shania. It's Eileen Regina. So being compared to her frustrates me every time. Roberta? It's my maternal grandmother's middle name and the name she goes by. I'm of Russian and American Indian descent. Roberta does not fit me. Bearden is acceptable, but my biological father's name is Philip Vickers. My father, Tony Bearden, left when I was 6 and had nothing to do with his other 3 biological children, so I dislike the name Bearden as well. I'm now married, thankfully, so I no longer use this name. I hope to change my name soon. I'm just not sure what I want for my first and middle names. I prefer unusual names. Story 83. It's okay. However, I wish my parents had not chosen the same name as the majority of parents did around that time. There are many people with the same name as me who are roughly the same age. Story 84. Turns out being named Baby McBabeface wasn't so bad. I usually just get called Babe or Face most of the time. Sometimes they call me BM. To tease me, my best friends just call me BF. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.